Good morning. My name is John Musella. I'm with the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce, and we are obviously very happy to have you all joining us today on this very important topic and look forward to a productive conversation today. One of the biggest questions we get every time on our webinar will this presentation deck be available? And yes, it will be available at the conclusion of the presentation. We're also going to be posting this onto our YouTube channel so that others will have access to the presentation as well. Also, this update is strictly for the City of Santa Clarita. We do want to make that notation. If you live in the City of Santa Clarita, this applies to you. For those of you who might be with us today who live in the unincorporated LA County areas of the Santa Clarita Valley, we are working with the County of LA as well on an update, and we'll get that information over to everyone as soon as that has been finalized. If you have any questions regarding the county regulations, please let us know and we will put you in contact with the appropriate office. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to please check our events calendar of the Chamber on our website, scvchamber.com. You can see all of our upcoming events and register for them there. If you have any questions or if you're not receiving our regular emails, you can email us at hello@scvchamber.com and we will make sure your contact details are updated in our database. As a quick highlight, we have our State of the County event coming up with Supervisor Catherine Barger on Wednesday, May 31st at 11:30 a.m. at the Hyatt. If you're interested in sponsoring or participating, please email hello@scvchamber.com or visit our site to purchase tickets. Also, we are pleased to announce the return of our Business Expo, which is set to take place on Wednesday, June 28th from 4 to 8 p.m. also at the Hyatt. Thank you for the Hyatt for sponsoring that location. Sponsorships are also available if you reach out to us, again, at hello@scvchamber.com. You can also register on our site if you're a business or you wish to attend. Early registration for that event actually ends tomorrow. So tomorrow is the last day to get early bird registration for the Business Expo. Moving right along, we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today. I would like to remind everyone to please use the Q&A feature. We'll take questions at the end of the presentation. We had some questions submitted ahead of time, so we'll probably start with those, but we will be taking questions live from those of you who are joining us today. So please feel free to ask your questions in that Q&A feature at the bottom. Today's program, as you know, will focus on the transition to a new waste services company, Burrtec, and the new state-mandated organics recycling programs are set to begin on July 1st of this year for the City of Santa Clarita. Burrtec Waste Industries was selected for the new waste services franchise agreement for the city for all residential and commercial waste services throughout the City of Santa Clarita. Today, we are joined by Laura Jardine, Administrative Analyst for Environmental Services for the City of Santa Clarita, Curtis Williams, Solid Waste Administrator for the City of Santa Clarita, and of course, Dennis Berner, the General Manager for Burrtec. Today's session, we're going to review those new state-mandated organics recycling program, upcoming rate changes, waste cart color changes are coming as well, food waste pails, and of course, enhanced waste services for everyone in Santa Clarita. With that, I want to turn it over to Laura to kick us off. So Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good morning, everyone. As John mentioned, I'm Laura Jardine with the city's environmental services team, and I'm here with my supervisor, which is Curtis Williams. He's the administrator of solid waste here at the city. And we'll talk through the 1383, which is the Senate bill that kind of spearheaded the organics recycling program. So we'll talk through that. We'll talk through the waste hauler transition activities and some things that we're doing to get the message out to our residents and businesses. And then Dennis is here from Burrtec to help us answer any operational questions, and we're happy to do all of that at the end. So I'll turn it over to Curtis, who will get us started with our presentation.
Thank you, Laura. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. That's all right. Can we see the screen? There we go. Should have just popped up. All right. Well, first I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for providing the opportunity to provide outreach about two exciting situations that are going on with the City of Santa Clarita. One is, of course, SB 1383, which is the organics recycling law, and then also the transition of haulers from waste management to Burrtec. So first, I'll be dealing with SB 1383, which is also known as the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Act. And then Laura will help us through the franchise agreement with Dennis. for residential services, because Burrtec already does commercial services for the city of Santa Clarita. All right, let's go down the slide. All right, so there's the landfill. So let's talk about short-lived Climate Pollutants Act. So Senate Bill 1383 was passed by the California legislature and signed into law by Governor Brown in 2016. It's a follow-up bill from Assembly Bill 1826 that requires organic waste to be diverted from the landfill. SB 1383 is the most significant landfill waste reduction mandate adopted in California in the last 30 years. Its goal is to reduce organic waste in the landfill disposal by 75%, and that's from the 2014 levels by 2025. And we're already at 2023, so we've got only a couple more years to go. This means diverting more than 20 million tons annually from the landfill. This legislation aims to slow climate change by diverting organic materials from the landfills. And the rationale is that when waste decomposes in the landfill, methane and other greenhouse gases are emitted into the air and cause climate change. By diverting the organics from the landfill, the materials become either compost or mulch, and we can let the carbon then be reintroduced into the soil. According to CalRecycle, which is the branch of California Environmental Protection Agency that oversees the state's waste management, recycling, and waste reduction programs, they're saying that organic waste comprises over half of our waste stream. In their waste characterization study that they did back in 2018, food waste comprised of 13% of what was disposed, and the rest of the organic waste was comprised of green waste. In the next set of slides, you'll see the major categories of what organic waste is. When enacted, SB 1383 was placed on cities and counties to implement, and the city of Santa Clarita has those responsibilities as well. So those responsibilities are providing organic waste collection for all residents and businesses, conducting outreach and education to cover generators, and that's what we're here doing today, inspecting and enforcing covered generators for compliance with SB 1383, and establish edible food recovery programs. And then the last is procure organic waste products. All right, so one of the questions we get a lot of is, well, what are organics? And I think the easy part is if it was living or lived at one point, whether it be a plant or an animal, then it's considered organics. And so what we like to know is also, okay, what is organics, but where does it go? And for the most part, we've asked for folks to take their lawn clippings, their leaves, their twigs, and put that in the green waste. And I think we're doing a pretty good job as a city, separating the organic material that we're currently using. And what we're doing now is just adding more material to that bin. And it'll be something new. And I know that, a lot of people are nervous about, adding another material that they're not used to, that used to go in the trash. But I kind of equate this back to recycling way back in the late 1990s, where, people were concerned and confused about how to recycle. So I think this will take some time, but I think this is something that we can easily learn. So what are the organics? Well, plate scraping. So whatever wasn't eaten, food, bits, things that, people are done with after a restaurant or having a meal at the home. The next one is going to be vegetables. Vegetables is pretty easy. And we don't have many restrictions or any restrictions on that. We have fruits, cooked meat, and there's a specificity to cooked meat. They really don't want raw meat. There's a lot of issues with raw meat getting mixed into the organics bin and pathogens with that. So we've been instructed by the processor that really the preferred method is cooked meat. If it's going to be raw, then we would prefer it go into the trash bin. Seafood as well, cheese and dairy, breads, and then peels that would come off of your vegetables and fruits, and then whatever expired fruit or food that is either a fruit or vegetable or meat that's been cooked. Also, bones, coffee grounds and filters for those of us coffee drinkers. Then we've got greasy napkins, food soiled paper, and tea bags. And I know that this is something that probably a lot of people weren't expecting, which is coffee grounds and filters, the napkins, the pizza boxes. We get a lot of questions about pizza boxes. And I would even say, you get a greasy bag that had French fries in it. As long as there isn't some sort of metal, aluminum or insulated coating on the inside, then all of these, paper products or cardboard products that have some sort of grease into it, it's okay to go ahead and put those into the organics bin. The tea and the tea bags, those would work. The only concern that we do have is we would probably want you guys to take the staple out if there is one on the tea bag, because we don't want that to end up in the compost. So by no means is this an exhaustive list. It's just a good set of guidelines. And as the process goes, when we start getting out your containers to individual homes, there will be plenty of outreach. There will be plenty of material that will advise you what can go in the bin. And then, of course, if you ever have any questions, you can go on greensantaclarita.com and ask, or not ask, but look at what examples we do have up there. Oop, too far. All right. So we talked a little bit earlier about what does SB 1383 really require the city of Santa Clarita, and for that matter, the county of Los Angeles, to do as far as requirements to satisfy the state. And so first and foremost, we have to provide organics collection availability to commercial, industrial, and residential customers. So that means every home and every business has to receive organic waste collection services. This is where Burrtec will come in starting July 1st of this year. Starting in 2013, Burrtec had already done a pilot program for commercial food waste services, and they have at some point or another up until now have maintained some type of recycling services for food. For residential, we're already doing green waste, as most of you know. That's part of the 3-cart system, but then now we're going to add food waste to it as well. All right, our second responsibility, which is establishing a food recovery program, which means that food donation charities are going to benefit from a new process in which we will be working with restaurants and markets and other food producers, generators of food that's still edible. I think there's some confusion that, well, wait, isn't Burrtec going to handle all the food waste? And the food waste is the magic word. If it's inedible, then that's where Dennis and his group ends up taking over recycling of food and making that into compost or mulch. But we're still looking at producers, even caterers, that are producing edible food that can be used to these charities. And so that's kind of one of the bright sides that we're looking at is that we're able to help coordinate with the producers and the recipients of the charities to be able to get food donated so that it doesn't end up going to waste. Third, conducting education and outreach to the community. And I think this has kind of been a great coincidence of timing, is that with SB 1383 coming into effect and us transitioning haulers and getting Burrtec, that this gives us a wonderful opportunity to be able to talk about SB 1383, what's going to be expected, what the requirements are, and what to expect as far as your hauling services. So you will continue to see probably more than you expected to see in your mail, to see on social media, printed media. You'll be getting things coming to your home. So there won't be any real limitation of what we're trying to get out to the community. And of course, like I'd mentioned, greensantaclarita.com, there's always going to be information there about both the transition and SB 1383. So I would advise you to keep your eyes open and see what comes out. The fourth is procurement of recyclables and recovered organics products. This relates to the city of Santa Clarita as an organization and the county of Los Angeles. And this requires us to purchase paper and other paper type goods that are recovered from organic products in them, or to purchase items that are able to be recycled or compost after they've been used. One of the examples that are currently employed that we do right now is our printing paper currently is 30% recycled. So that's relatively easy and something that we can purchase automatically. But We also have compost and mulch programs that we produce at events, and Dennis and Burrtec will assist us with that. So those would be things that we can either provide to the public at our neighborhood cleanup, or there will be some materials that will be provided for our trails and parks. All right, fifth, securing, is the edible food waste recovery capacity. And this is something that we needed to secure. So in Northern California, they've kind of got a jump on us. They've already had a lot of programs out as far as recycling of food waste. Southern California, we really didn't have the capacity, and that's changing steadily. But one of the requirements is getting this capacity so that our organic waste can be properly handled. And so working through Dennis and through the RFP process, that is something that we were able to secure so that none of our materials goes into the landfill, so that it's all accounted for. Finally, the last thing the city is going to be responsible for is monitoring compliance and conducting enforcement. And really our current recycling and green waste programs, we do the same thing, and we work with our haulers. And usually if there's an issue such as contamination of recycling or contamination of the green waste, the driver will let you know, and then there's ways to remedy the disposal. But really what we're looking at is kind of long-term for organics, is making sure that we don't end up with a lot of contamination and frequent contamination. And then that will require the city to work with the hauler to talk to the generators and say, okay, maybe there's a way that we could handle this waste easier, better, so that there isn't contamination. And so we'll work with the generators providing notifications and assistance so that doesn't become a long-term issue. All right. Let's see. So that takes care of the SB 1383 explanation. Laura will go ahead and take over with our hauler transition.
Thank you, Curtis. So yes, so 1383 is a big change for all of us. But in the midst of that, we also needed to modify some things in our franchise agreement for waste hauling. Therefore, we've come to this place where we are now in a transition phase. So the background to that is we have an agreement with Waste Management currently for residential services, which includes multifamily and single family homes. That agreement, along with the current agreement with Burrtec Waste Industries for the commercial portion of the city services, were set to expire June 30th of this year of 2023. But knowing that we needed to develop a new franchise agreement that would encompass all of the new requirements, we had to go out last year, early in 2022, for a request for proposal process, an RFP, where we requested waste haulers to submit bid packets to the city for review. Those were put together and received and then vetted through a process which had a committee that reviewed those bids and looked at all of the services that would be provided and costs to our residents and businesses, and therefore come to the conclusion that a new agreement would be awarded to Burrtec in June of 2022, a full year in advance of the expiration of the current agreement. So it would give us plenty of time to go through this transition process and make sure that we're getting everything ready to go as we needed to. And then some of the key components that we wanted to highlight of the new agreement are, of course, it is SB 1383 compliant. That was number one, first and foremost. What that means is, many things that Curtis just went over, but also that our new cart colors for residential service will be in compliant with the new cart color requirements, which are black for garbage, blue for recycling, and green for organics. So all residential households will still have 3 carts. They'll just be these specific colors. So a lot of people will see a big change in their cart colors over the next several weeks and months. And so the green organics cart will now have the green waste or yard waste that we've been putting into our organics or green waste cart, but also the bagged food waste that we just looked through in the previous slides. And then in addition, we are able to get free service for specific city events. We have some regular large city events like Concerts in the Park and Cowboy Festival, and Burrtec will be providing service to those events. They will also help us to host free community document shredding events. We just recently hosted one on the city side a couple weeks ago. They are very popular. People appreciate those events, and Burrtec will begin hosting those come fall of this year and have most likely a couple of events throughout the year each year. And then one of their requirements in the agreement is to provide mulch and compost to the city as part of that procurement requirement that SB 1383 allows. And what that will look like is any of that mulch and compost that comes to the city can be used for city projects, city landscaped areas, parks, trails, but also for free giveaways to our residents, which we currently do as part of our neighborhood cleanup event in April. So they will help us to be able to provide that as well. And then in preparing for the food waste recycling program in the homes, they will be offering free kitchen food pails for all residents. Those will come with material that will have very specific instructions for everyone. It's great information that'll be coming, but that is just a nice little food pail that you can keep in your kitchen. And that's where your food scrapings and expired foods and those types of items would go into a bag. And then that bag can go into the green organics cart. Also, backyard composters are available to anyone who does a request up to a certain limit per year. So if anyone's interested in doing their own backyard composting, they'll have that capability. And then Burrtec will also have a local call center, which is very important. The city takes customer service very seriously. So we really appreciate their ability to be able to provide that local call center for our residents and businesses. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as you can imagine, with all of these changes and new things going on, we have to get this information out the best we can to all of our residents and businesses in the city of Santa Clarita. So we have a pretty robust outreach and education program that's already launched in January of this year. So we'll just take a look really quick at some of the things that we're doing so you know what to look out for. Okay, so on the audio video side, we started to produce a Trash Talks video series. Hopefully some of you have seen some of those already. So they're short episodes that have a specific topic per episode. And so we've launched our introduction Trash Talks, and then also kind of the background of SB 1383 and why we're doing what we're doing. Shortly to come will be cart colors and what they are and what goes in each cart, and also more of how to use your kitchen pail in your home. And so all of these videos address the hauler transition in some aspect, and also the organics recycling program. And then the good news with this program or this series of videos is that we have the opportunity to provide updates. So as things come up or people have questions that we want to address, we can add additional episodes in the future. And then we were able to obtain as a city a grant through CalRecycle, which is the state entity, to be able to publish and get this messaging out to our community. So this campaign is currently being run through gas station TV. So you may see it at the gas pump, National Cine Media, which is in the movie theaters, West Coast Media, which helps us with a lot of the digital, and then our local TV and radio stations, SCV TV and KHTS. In addition to the audio video aspect, we're doing some print media. In late 2019, we developed our Recycle Hero campaign to just bring awareness to recycling. And we've now recently introduced a new Recycle Hero to bring focus to the organics recycling specifically. With the print media, we utilize a lot of our local resources. We have our Seasons magazine that's published within the city, Signal newspaper. We have Santa Clarita magazine is inside SCV. So all of our local partners are helping us to get the message out. We also like to utilize our bus shelters and any editorials that we have the opportunity to produce as well. And then, as I'm sure everyone is aware, social media is significant. It's an effective communication tool that we can use to get the message out to a large population. So we definitely take advantage of that. Green Santa Clarita has its own Facebook page. So if you don't follow us already, I highly recommend it. So we put out a lot of good information just in general with any sustainability programs we work on here at the city, but a lot of this, the Trash Talk series and a lot of the hauler information is posted there. In addition, the City of Santa Clarita general Facebook and Instagram help us to share those messages as well. So we're seeing a lot of great engagement there. And then Burrtec has their own pages. So if you would like to follow them, it's Burrtec SCV. And then, as Curtis had mentioned, we have literature coming for everyone. So please start to look in your mailboxes, and as things get delivered to your home, like your food kitchen pail, they'll have information in them. We're sending, along with Burrtec as a partnership, we'll be sending out postcards to help you select your cart sizes that you'd like if you don't want the standard 96-gallon cart sizes. And then Burrtec will be sending a welcome packet to everyone with a full array of information and how to go about getting everything taken care of that you need to do. And just one thing that I wanted to highlight is that as part of the agreement, a few things that stayed the same that will be included in these welcome packets is that they will still be offering a bulky item pickup and drop off program as you're used to with waste management. And a sharps program for anyone that has consistent need to dispose of lancets, needles, and syringes. So that's good news, but you'll get more information on that as well. And then last on this topic that I wanted to talk about is our website that Curtis mentioned. It's greensantaclarita.com. It is a great resource, has a wealth of information on there. There is a page that's dedicated to this hauler transition and organics recycling program. So you can go there for an FAQ section if you have any specific questions we don't answer today. And then there's links to all of the available resources. So check that out. And then Curtis is going to wrap up the presentation with just a little more on our inspections and exemptions program for this.
Thank you, Laura. There we go. Inspections and exemptions and food recovery. I know we touched on a little bit of that as part of some of the other slides, so we won't take too long on it. So one of the questions for the inspections and exemptions is who's an edible food generator, and it just depends. Really what it comes down to is, it's an entity that produces food that has the ability to transport that food to one of the charities. We kind of mentioned it earlier, it would be markets, restaurants, caterers. So these would be kind of the folks that would be assisting us for generating edible food. The next question is, what is an exemption? And I know many of the folks in the chamber, if you've gotten a letter from the city, probably 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 years between AB 1826 and SB 1383, you've gotten a couple letters about exemptions. And those are basically, for the most part, if you're an accounting firm and you have an office, you're not likely to be producing a lot of organic waste. You may have a lunch here and there. You may have donuts once in a while, but you're not likely going to be a generator such as a market or a caterer or a restaurant. In that case, if you are not over the threshold, then you can qualify for an exemption. And that's something that we do have a staff member that will go out, do inspections, and determine if the waste stream qualifies. So usually my understanding is it's under 20 gallons of organic waste for, I want to say, either 2 yards or 3 yards of waste in the container. So that includes, green waste and food waste at the same time. So if you haven't gotten one of those, contact the city and we can see about the exemption process and then have an inspection take place. The other part of food recovery is, a lot of people ask this question, and I know a lot of questions came up about, people are going to want to eat our food waste, and that's not really the point of food recovery. The point of food recovery really is being able to, get that tray of lasagna that a caterer was unable to feed folks at a gathering, and be able to get that to a food shelter, homeless shelter, a food recovery location as soon as possible. So those are the folks that we're looking to link together. We're trying to determine, who's generating the most amount of edible food waste, and we'll be in contact between a combination of Burrtec staff and city staff to be able to work with those that are providing that edible food waste. And then we're always in contact with the food recovery organizations. We know of about 5 that are currently on our list, but if there are more out there, we'd love to get in contact with them and let them know. So looking forward to that. And with that, I think we are at the point of where we can get questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Laura and Curtis. I also want to open up Dennis. I'm not sure if you wanted to say a few words here at the beginning before we move on to questions.
I think the city covered almost everything. I just wanted to, our contact information is Santa Clarita @burrtec.com for our email. And our phone number is 661-222-2249 if you want to reach out to us.
Great, thanks, Dennis. I know we had a few questions that we got in advance of today's webinar, and we have a few in the Q&A we'll go over in just a quick minute. But again, Laura, Curtis, Dennis, thank you so much. Appreciate the updates. And again, if anyone wants to add to Q&A, please feel free. We'll jump over there in just a quick second. So first question we had in advance submitted was, when will our bins be changed out and how does that work?
Dennis, you want to handle that one?
Sure. We've ordered all the containers and we're preparing we'll start receiving the containers in Santa Clarita around May 15th. We're starting July 1st, we're going to be delivering them to the residents. It's going to take about 8 weeks to deliver every cart to every resident. So what'll happen is on your trash day, you'll put your trash out as normal. And then if it's the day that your carts will be switched out, what'll happen is a separate truck will come and follow the trash truck, remove your empty carts, the waste management carts, and then we will drop off brand new carts with a third truck. And that truck will be your food waste pail, and it'll be the literature, the welcome package and stuff that we'll have mailed it prior, but this will also be attached to the container. So like I said, the whole process will take about 8 weeks.
So even though Burrtec is taking over July 1, it's going to be about 2 months to be able to switch out all the carts at the beginning of that process.
Yeah, and look for a link with the interactive mapping. So you'll be able to actually click on a link. It'll pull up a map. You could type in your address and you can see what day your container will be switched out.
And then Dennis, just maybe some clarification on containers. One of the other questions in Q&A was, are there now going to be 4 containers instead of the standard 3 now that we're doing the organics waste recycling? So can you provide some clarity on that, or maybe it's Laura?
No, I can answer that. So it's going to be 3 containers. So basically what's going to happen, you can get your food waste pail with instructions, as Laura had mentioned, and you'll place a bag in there, put your food scraps and stuff in there, and then tie that bag up. And then instead of dropping it in your trash can, you'll drop it in your organics can, which would be your green waste. So you could have rosebush clippings and weeds and stuff in there. And then you'll put your bag of food waste in there.
And just a quick clarification too, just in case, the green waste will still stay loose. We don't want that bagged as it is today. It's loose in the green waste bin, but the food waste will be bagged in with the loose green waste or yard waste.
Perfect. Thanks for that clarification. And just while we're on the subject here of green waste and the organics, is there was a question as to whether or not the food scraps and the waste bin, is that going to create flies and worms and issues for residents?
So the way we're looking at that is currently, if you currently use your garbage disposal, keep using it. If you have a backyard composter or you want to get one, you can get one from us for free. Keep using that. But right now, the rest of that trash or the food waste is going somewhere. So it's either going in your trash can, which is in a bag. So most people, at least at our house, we have a trash can and we have regular trash in there. And then we put extra spaghetti and all that stuff scraped in the stuff we don't want to put down the garbage disposal. That goes in the trash can and it's tied up in a bag. we typically don't get ants. So if you have a smaller bag with just your spaghetti and chicken bones and stuff like that tied up and it's placed into the green waste container, shouldn't get ants either. It's not much a difference of which container it goes in. And the other thing is, just a clarification, because it says on the container and in the literature that we're sending out, no plastics. And then we constantly get the question, well, how come we're putting plastic bags in there? So that's a difference. There's a difference between a plastic bag and a toy or a water bottle or something like that. So the plastic bags are recovered, and the way the processor works, there's different types of processors, but it could either squeeze the bags and squeezes all the food waste out and the bags are recovered, or they're hand torn open by a machine and then the bags are recovered. But a water bottle and those types of things are hard to get out of the food waste.
Perfect. And then another question we have in the chat, again, relative to disposal cans, is will Burrtec have the smaller trash cans as opposed to the regular size cans as well?
Yeah, in fact, I'm right in the process of approving our final postcard. We'll be sending out a postcard that we have everybody's address that Waste Management currently services. And we're going to send them a postcard. And on that postcard, there's a unique ID number. You'll type that ID, you'll go in the QR code. So you'll go on the QR code, a website will pop up, type in your unique ID number, and then you can select what size trash cans you want. If you don't do that, or and you're happy with the trash cans you have, you're going to get a 95-gallon trash can, which is the largest size. That's going to be the default. So if you want something smaller than that, you have to go on there and click it. Now, if you don't do it or you didn't get the postcard or whatever, you can still call the office and we'll handle it. But this should be able to handle it in bulk for most of the people. That way, when your trash carts are delivered after July 1st, you can get the correct size.
Okay, great. So there's obviously going to be tons of communication between now and then between Burrtec and the city and businesses and residents to make sure everyone's got the right information, call numbers, emails, websites, etc. between now and then. And I apologize if you've addressed this already. One of the questions was, is there going to be a specific liner for the organics? Is that going to be provided to residents?
There will be no liners for the organic food waste pail. We're encouraging residents to use extra bread bags, or if you buy something at a store, it comes in a plastic bag, to use those.
Just so everyone knows, I've been participating in this program because I'm in one of the areas that Burrtec currently services that was in the county and now annexed to the city. And I've been participating for several months now, and I have not yet had to use a bag that I purchased because I've used to-go bags from like takeout. I've used produce bags, bread bags, anything that I just have sitting around at home that would normally either be taken to a retailer for recycling or go in the trash.
Perfect. All right. Another couple of questions we've had relative to senior discounts. Is there going to be a senior discount available with the new services being provided?
Yes. So just email us at that santaclarita@burrtec.com, and there'll be some literature. It'll be in the package as well that we're sending out, and the information will also be on our website. Burrtec is a large company. I think we're the largest privately held company in California for handling waste disposal. So when you go on our website, we don't want you to accidentally be in Fontana or something. So we have, it's burrtec.com/SCV as Santa Clarita Valley. So when you go on burrtec/SCV, you'll get, and then it'll ask you, are you in the city or the county? If you're in the city, then you'll have access to all of the programs that we offer for this new contract, such as senior discount, Sharps, all the other stuff that Laura had mentioned.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Another question relative to condo associations, multifamily housing apartments. Are they going to be required to provide central containers for the organics? And will those occupants who are living in the multifamily housing, are they going to receive household pails individually?
Anybody with a front door is going to get a food waste pail. So we've already met with some of the larger apartment managers in the Santa Clarita Valley. And it's not a simple thing, but we will be hand delivering the food waste pails with the literature to each apartment unit. And then we're working with the apartment managers and owners to find places. There's a lot of the enclosures have, 2 bins and they can only hold 2 bins. But looking at them, there's enough room to put about a 65-gallon trash cart or organics cart. And then other enclosures only have 1 bin. So we can place a second bin, which would be an organics cart. So in some cases, you might have to walk to a different trash enclosure, not the one right next to your house, but the apartments will have those. Every apartment, the plan is to every apartment to have an organics, some type of organics container and recycling containers.
Great, Dennis. And this is a little bit more focused on business. What types of differences will businesses see with the new waste services and the new organic recycling requirements?
Currently, we offer food waste recycling. We've been offering that for years in Santa Clarita. If you have a substantial food waste recycling program today, your rates are actually going to go down with this new program. And so what's going to happen is for those that don't have the organics, we're out there visiting everybody. There's over 1,500 customers. We've visited hundreds, going into the thousands of them. So everybody should get either a letter, a knock on the door, a phone call, or and we'll explain that program because there's so many variables. Some people don't have any space. Some people don't have, they don't generate, and other people do. So we're taking them case by case. If you haven't heard from us yet, feel free to give us a call and we'll put you on top of the list.
John, I'd like to make a clarification. Speaking of commercial, I know I had mentioned earlier about the exemption process. I wanted to make sure that I stated it clearly. The exemption process is for commercial generators and businesses only, not for residential. So if you're a residential customer, even though you may compost at home or you may, not have a great deal of organic waste, you're still required to have organic services, whereas the exemption process is purely a commercial program. So I wanted to clarify that before anybody had questions about that. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Curtis.
Sure.
Another question relative to billing is that will there be a discount if you pay the entire year in advance?
There will be. If you pay 12 months, you're only charged for 11 months, but it's a certain time of year. I think you have to pay it prior, or I'd have to look at the contract, but if you call our office, we can answer that question exactly. But because what happens is sometimes during the middle of the year, there's a rate increase and then they've already paid it and it makes it confusing. So what we want to do is have everybody, if you pay it, I think at the January 1st bill. Is that what it is, Laura? We went through this the other day. I think it's the January 1st bill.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask for the credit then, because some people just pay a year in advance and they don't ask. So if they ask for it, we'll give it to them.
And Dennis, this is for residential only, right?
Correct. Single family houses that pay individual single family rates.
Okay.
And that would start January of 2024, just to be clear.
Yes.
And then for those folks who are living in a mobile home 55 plus park, they don't currently have green waste bins. Will they now with Burrtec?
They're going to get, we're in the past, we had green waste bins and we had food waste bins. Now we're calling those organics bins. It'll be the same bin. And in those situations, what we'll be doing is probably giving them a 35-gallon, which is a small one. I know it's hard to picture 35-gallon, 60-gallon, 90-gallon, but the 35-gallon is a pretty small cart with wheels on it. And since they don't have any green waste, it'll just be their food waste in there.
And then we have another question relative to rates changing on the residential. Are there going to, what's the difference between current and future rates?
I should have wrote that down. They are going to go up a little bit. Let me find it right here. I don't know what the current rates are, but the new rate starting July 1st is going to be $28.92 per month for residential single family service.
And
Do you
that's
have the
the
current rate?
standard, that's the standard service, just to be clear too. That doesn't include the senior discount, or if somebody selects a smaller trash cart size, there would be a reduction in rate at that point.
And then, Dennis, will people be able to get more than one of the yard waste, the green waste cans? If they, for instance, have a large property, have a lot of green waste on a regular basis, are they able to get more than one can? And is there an additional cost to that?
So they're gonna get up to the carts, they can get up to 3 additional carts at no additional charge. After that, we're gonna ask them to go to a bin. If it's a big property, we'll give them a bin. And those are also free. It'll be, they technically could have unlimited organics and unlimited recycling if it's a single family house, not a commercial business.
All right. And then jumping back over the waste pails, are those going to have a carbon filter or anything on them to assist with reduce smells?
No, they're airtight. So once you close it, it's airtight, it has a seal. But a lot of people, we're already offering this program in a lot of different areas. And what people are doing are either they don't use them, they use coffee cans or some other type of thing that they prefer to use. So you don't have to use these pails. But some people put them in the freezer or they put them in the refrigerator, just have a little, they're not real big. So they just put a little spot in the refrigerator and then just keep it in there.
All right. Got a question. How do people get on the list for the backyard composter?
Email us at santaclarita@burrtec.com. And I have to do a shout out to the JCs, Kyle Duffy. He's the first guy on the list. So he's pretty excited about that.
There you go. Here's a question for you. What about pet waste disposal?
That's a great question. And I'm glad somebody asked that, because the pet waste, usually it's in the biodegradable bags. It needs to still go in the trash. Please do not put it in with the organics. I know it doesn't make that much sense because horse manure is going in with the organics, but the pet waste cannot go in there because there's actual people pulling these bags out of the yard waste. And those organic bags sometimes come open and it's not a pretty sight. So it's better if the pet waste stays in the trash for now.
One of our last questions here, because we're going to round out the hour. What about recycling plastic bags, etc.?
Well, I have to do my disclaimer. What I say on here, I'm trying to be as aligned as with the literature going out. But the other day I was doing a presentation. I'm like, yeah, you can recycle plastic bags. And they said, well, the slide behind you says you can't. So it's not a simple answer, but I'm going to go with anything that the literature says we're going to go with. And the literature says don't recycle the plastic bags. I like to give the reason why we have these rules, because we have some processing. Burrtec has some processing plants that we do recycle the plastic bags. Other ones don't. But the biggest problem with the plastic bags is they blow out of the trucks, even though the trucks are trying to be airtight. Then you get them along the side of the road, they clog up things. So and I think that's why the state has made them illegal in a lot of areas, or the city. So we just asked, at this point in time, do not recycle the plastic bags.
Can I just add on to that, John?
Yeah, I was gonna say those little plastic bags are like little parachutes.
Yeah.
Fly everywhere.
On the city side, our messaging has been for quite some time that plastic bags, now you can reuse them for your food waste, disposal. So that's great. But otherwise, we just encourage everyone to take them to a retailer that accepts them. And we do know that Kohl's has boxes that collect those, Target, Walmart. There's several locations in Santa Clarita that you can just take. I just stash them all in a little bundle. And then when I go to the store, the next time I drop it in their bin, that's usually either by their customer service desk or the front door. So we're keeping that messaging the same. But as far as the other recyclables that are plastic in general, most of that would still go in your recycle cart, which will now be blue effective July 1, or when you receive them and your carts get swapped out.
Perfect. And we have a nice comment here from Linda, who indicates that she's been using an organic pail for a few weeks in her kitchen and doesn't smell if you keep it closed after each use. So good comment there. And from Linda, appreciate that. Thank you. And obviously lots of changes coming, and we're all going to have to get used to these new things. So good to see how others are reacting and having experience with this. We also had a question about how many free large item pickups will residents have?
It's 4 per year. So just call our office and we'll schedule it within the next trash day, whatever your trash day is. If it's on Tuesday, we'll come out on that Tuesday and get it. Or you can bring it to our yard. We're setting up a place because currently Waste Management accepts bulky items at their yard, and we'll have a place at our yard. In our yard, it's only, 500 feet from the Waste Management yard. So it'll be easy for people to find us.
And for the pickup scheduling, it's 4 times per year, 3 items per time. So it's essentially 12 items a year.
Perfect. That's great clarification. All right, last question here is, will there be an interactive link where you can type in your address and find out what date your carts are going to be changed out?
Yes, and we'll be sending that out as soon as we get that online. You'll be able to look at the entire map of the city, and you can also type in your address and zoom in and see what day your trash can is going to be exchanged. And one other thing, speaking of the carts, I've lived in Santa Clarita for 34 years, and I remember a company called Blue Barrel. But the state of California, and part of this SB 1383, has changed the colors of all the carts throughout the entire state. They have to all be the same. Black or gray for trash, which is garbage now. And recycling is going to be blue. And then the organics is green. So we're going to try to remind everybody, do not put your trash into the Blue Barrel. But it's going to be a little confusing. And I know that Santa Clarita residents are smart. So until your trash can is switched out, leave it in the blue. But once you get your new Burrtec cart, then you're going to put it in the black cart.
We're all going to have to be retrained, Dennis.
We're all going to do it. We can do it. We got
That's right.
50,000 smart households in Santa Clarita. We can do it.
Amen to that. Well, that wraps up the questions we've received. Laura, Curtis, Dennis, is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to add in, clarify that we've had thus far during our conversation here?
I don't think so, but I don't know if you can provide our email just in case they have specific questions for the city after this, they can contact Curtis and I directly.
Yeah, I think what we can probably do is send an email to everybody who registered with your contact details, with the presentation, any other details we want to include there, just so everyone has all that information. Because we know that this is, it seems like a small change, but it's going to be a little bit of a big change. But as Dennis pointed out, we're all very smart here in Santa Clarita, and we'll make the best of this and get through it royally. So, and we've got good solid support from the city and from Burrtec. So thank you all for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Important topics, good information. Thank you for the comment there, Amy Daniels. Very informative. We appreciate that. And we'll send out information to everybody who was on today. So thanks everybody for joining us.
I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for doing this.
Thank you.
We are happy to do it and provide a resource, not only for our members in the business community, but for our community at large. We've been here for 100 years, celebrating our centennial this year. So thank you, Dennis. We are happy to be supportive of this process and help amplify this voice and this message out to the broader community. I know everyone's doing a lot of these presentations over the next few weeks, a couple months, so we can get the word out to everyone. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.